Captain Victor's breath came in shallow, ragged gasps as the dim emergency lights flickered overhead. The once mighty warship, the Shalvik, now drifted aimlessly through the black void of uncharted space, its hull scarred and cracked. From the recent skirmish, silence had settled like a heavy fog, broken only by the faint hum of failing systems and the distant pulse of life. Support struggling to hold on, Victor sat slumped in his command chair, fingers gripping the armrests, as he fought the crushing weight of despair. The cockpit's displays blinked erratically, warning messages flashing in the alien script he had known since childhood. The ship was dying, and with it, his chances. He glanced at the viewport, where the stars stretched infinitely. He had dreamed of exploring these uncharted regions. But now those distant lights felt like cold, indifferent eyes watching a lone soul slip away. His crew was gone. The boarding attack had been swift and brutal. Most had fallen defending the ship or repairing critical damage. Victor alone had managed to seal himself in the command center. But now he faced the same fate. A bitter laugh escaped his throat. Drifting alone, lost to the void, ... The end is near. Life support warnings beeped louder, oxygen levels falling. Time was running out yet. Somewhere deep inside, a flicker of stubborn hope refused to die. He activated the ship's distress beacon, a desperate plea sent into the abyss. The signal was weak, fragmented, but it was all he had. Hours passed in agonizing silence. Victor closed his eyes, memories flooding back, training with his squadron. The faces of his fallen comrades, the peaceful worlds he once swore to protect. A sudden shift jolted him awake. Sensors detected movement. Something was approaching. His heart raced. The energy signature on his radar was unlike anything he had encountered before, faint, yet purposeful. A ship moving steadily towards the Shalvik. He adjusted the targeting controls, scanning for threats, but the readings remained steady and non-aggressive. "Is it rescue?" Victor whispered, barely daring to hope, through the viewport. A sleek vessel appeared, a human ship, unlike any he'd seen in Dominion records. Its hull gleamed with streamlined design, light, steady, and welcoming. Victor struggled to comprehend the moment. The humans had answered the silence. The alien pilot sent a hail, the universal code for assistance, barely expecting a reply to his surprise. The ship responded. The USS Pioneer hailed back in a calm, measured voice. "This is the USS Pioneer of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress signal. We're here to help." Victor stared in disbelief. The humans were coming for him, crossing dangerous and unknown regions. Driven by a commitment he had never anticipated. Minutes later, docking clamps secured the two ships. The airlock hissed open, and a team of humans in advanced exosuits entered the Shalvik. Their faces were resolute but kind. Eyes filled with an unfamiliar warmth. "We're here to get you out," said Lieutenant Sarah Green. "The missions." Lead Officer Victor nodded, a surge of gratitude flooding his being as they lifted him from the wreckage. The warmth of the Pioneer's medical bay was a stark contrast to the cold emptiness he had known. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Victor was not alone. But questions swirled in his mind. Why had the humans risked so much too? Save a lone alien pilot from a species often seen as enemies. What did their compassion mean in a galaxy rife with conflict? For now, those questions would wait. Survival came first, as the USS Pioneer disengaged from the wreck and powered its engines. Victor gazed out at the endless stars once more. The vast silence of space had been answered, and his story was only just beginning. The hum of the USS Pioneer's engines filled the quiet medical bay as Captain Victor rested on the examination table. The sterile environment was unfamiliar and strangely comforting. a sharp contrast to the cold, fractured corridors of his damaged ship. Lieutenant Sarah Green stood nearby, reviewing diagnostic readings on a sleek tablet. "Your vitals are stabilizing. Captain, the nanite treatment should repair most of the tissue damage within hours." Victor gave a faint nod, his gaze drifting toward the window that framed the endless starfield outside. Despite the humans' advanced technology and kindness, a part of him remained guarded, an instinct born from years of war and betrayal. "How did you find me?" he asked quietly. Green smiled softly. "Your distress beacon was weak, but it carried a unique signature. Our fleet's listening posts picked it up and traced it here." The Pioneer was the closest ship capable of responding. Quickly, Victor's eyes narrowed. "Why? Why would you cross so much space for a lone enemy pilot?" The question hung in the air. Green met his gaze. "Because no one deserves to die alone in the void. Because we believe in something greater than war." He wasn't sure what to make of it, but the sincerity in her voice stirred something unfamiliar, a fragile hope. Suddenly, the ship's intercom chimed. "Captain Green, we're detecting an incoming vessel on an intercept course," the communications officer announced. Green exchanged a glance with Victor before heading to the bridge. Victor followed, curiosity overriding caution. The bridge was a flurry of activity. Holographic displays showed a sleek, ominous silhouette approaching fast. "Hostile ship," the tactical officer reported. No prior communication, no identification. The ship's design was angular and intimidating, clearly military but unfamiliar. Its presence was a stark reminder of the dangers lurking beyond. "Shields up, weapons ready," Green ordered. "Keep scanners locked on them." Victor watched as the Pioneer prepared for a potential confrontation. Despite their promise of compassion, these humans were ready to fight fiercely when needed. The unknown vessel hailed them with a crackling transmission, its voice cold and mechanical. "This is the Dominion patrol vessel, Krithax. Identify yourselves and prepare to surrender the alien fugitive." Victor stiffened. The Dominion, the very empire that had destroyed his crew and left him drifting helplessly. Green's eyes hardened. "This is the USS Pioneer. We have no intention of surrendering anyone." The Krithax responded with a threat, warning the humans that resistance would be met with annihilation. The standoff was tense, the silent space between the ships thick with impending violence. Victor felt a surge of conflicted emotions: fear, anger, and an unexpected flicker of trust in the humans defending him. Green spoke calmly but firmly. "You can leave now, or we will defend ourselves." Moments stretched into eternity. Then, with a harsh crackle, the Krithax fired a warning shot, a bright blast that struck the Pioneer's shields. "Return fire," Green commanded. The battle erupted in a flurry of light and sound, the Pioneer maneuvering with surprising agility. Despite its size, Victor watched the humans fight, not with reckless fury, but with precision and unyielding determination. Their tactics were unlike anything he had seen, improvising, adapting, exploiting weaknesses with calculated risks. For the first time, he felt a spark of admiration, not just for their technology, but for their spirit. The Krithax faltered, its systems struggling under the relentless pressure. With a final, coordinated strike, the Pioneer disabled the enemy vessel's engines, forcing it to retreat. Cheers erupted on the bridge. Green turned to Victor, a fierce smile breaking through the tension. "You're safe for now," Victor exhaled, the weight of the moment sinking in. The humans had risked everything for him. Their unexpected signal piercing the silence of space and igniting a fight for survival. As the Pioneer set course for the nearest friendly outpost, Victor stared into the depths beyond, realizing that his fate was no longer his alone. The galaxy was vast, And in its endless silence, Ask Pioneer had answered the call. His story had shifted. Drifting alone was no longer an option. The med bay's sterile white lights cast a calm glow over Captain Victor as he regained strength aboard the USS Pioneer. Though his body was healing, his mind was a storm of questions. The humans' unexpected rescue and their fierce defense against the Dominion had left him unsettled and curious. Lieutenant Sarah Green entered with a datapad in hand. "Captain, the crew is eager to meet you. There's a protocol for first contact we follow when encountering new species. It's important for diplomacy and trust." Victor nodded slowly. The idea of trust felt foreign, but necessary.
After
all, these humans had saved his life, and if he hoped to survive in this new alliance, he would need to understand their ways. The bridge was alive with activity when Victor arrived. The captain's chair was empty, but the command crew stood ready to welcome him. The humans moved with purposeful, energy-coordinated, yet warm. Commander Elias Finch, the Pioneer's captain, stepped forward with a measured smile. His presence was calm but commanding. "Captain Victor, it is an honor to meet you. We hope to learn from each other and work together in these dangerous times." Victor inclined his head. "Your rescue was unexpected. The Dominion sees my kind as enemies." Finch nodded solemnly. "The Dominion threatens many. We don't distinguish enemies before understanding the whole picture." The words stirred something deep within Victor. He had always believed that survival meant strength and domination. But these humans spoke of something different: understanding and cooperation. The dialogue between the two captains was cautious but sincere. They exchanged histories, sharing stories of conflict and survival, victories and losses. Victor told of the Dominion's relentless expansion and the cost it had exacted on his people. Finch spoke of humanity's own battles of overcoming hardship on their homeworld, forging unity from diversity, and embracing exploration over conquest. "Your species has endured much," Finch said. "Yet, you survive. That's what matters." Victor considered the weight of those words. Perhaps survival did not always demand isolation and suspicion. Maybe there was strength in alliance. Later, in the ship's common area, the humans introduced Victor to their culture through stories, music, and shared meals. The alien pilot marveled at their resilience, their laughter despite hardship, their hope despite uncertainty. One young engineer, Lieutenant Mika Torres, shared a tale of her great-grandmother who had crossed oceans on a fragile ship seeking a new life. "Humans learn to adapt and never give up," she said. "It's how we've always survived." Victor's eyes reflected a new understanding. Perhaps this was why they had answered the silence, not just out of duty, but because of an inherent desire to protect and connect. Despite the growing bond, there were moments of tension. Victor's instincts, shaped by war, clashed with the humans' more measured approach. He questioned their willingness to negotiate, their reluctance to strike first. Commander Finch acknowledged the concern. "We believe in choosing our battles carefully. Sometimes restraint is the greatest strength." Victor was beginning to see that strength was not just firepower, was will, compassion, and the courage to stand for others. As the USS Pioneer continued its course through uncharted space, Victor found himself no longer a lone pilot, drifting in silence. He was part of something larger, an alliance bound not by fear, but by hope. That hope was fragile, yet it shone brighter than the distant stars beyond. The days aboard the USS Pioneer blurred together, filled with routine, drills, briefings, and quiet moments of reflection. Captain Victor, once a solitary figure adrift in the void, began to feel the subtle warmth of connection as the human crew shared more of their lives and their world. Lieutenant Sarah Green invited him to join her during a simulated navigation exercise. "It's a way we train for unexpected scenarios," she explained. her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "You'll see how we think, always preparing, always adapting." Victor watched with a mixture of skepticism and admiration as the humans executed maneuvers that balanced precision with creative flair. They valued flexibility over rigid tactics, blending instinct with technology. Later, in the ship's lounge, the crew gathered around, eager to share stories and laughter. The atmosphere was vibrant and welcoming, a stark contrast to the isolation he had endured. One of the engineers, Mika Torres, struck up a conversation about her home planet Earth. "Our world isn't perfect," she said, "but we've survived ice ages, wars, and disasters because we never stop trying. We fight not just to win, but to protect what matters." Victor listened, fascinated by the depth of human resilience. For all their flaws, these beings were bound by a fierce loyalty to each other, to their ideals, to the unknown. Over time, he began to open up about his own past Zaltari traditions of honor, the weight of command, and the losses that haunted him. Commander Finch sat with him one evening, sharing his own stories of hardship. "We've all lost much," he said quietly. "But loss doesn't have to define us. It can teach us, guide us towards something better." The human crew's empathy and strength surprised Victor. He realized that humanity's true power lay not just in their technology, but in their spirit, a relentless drive to persevere and connect. In the simulation room, Green challenged him to lead a coordinated defense against an unpredictable threat. At first, Victor's strategy reflected his rigid training, focusing on overwhelming force. But Green encouraged him to adapt, to think creatively with each iteration. Victor grew more confident in combining his experience with their methods. The exercise ended with the crew applauding his progress not as an outsider, but as one of their own. Outside the windows, stars streaked past as the pioneers sailed deeper into the unknown. Victor gazed out, feeling less adrift than ever. One night, while staring at the constellations, he confided in Lieutenant Torres. "I never imagined I would find kinship among strangers. Yet here, among humans, I feel ... hope." She smiled warmly. "That's the human way. We answer the silence. Not just because we must, but because we believe in something bigger." Victor nodded, the heaviness in his chest lifting. For the first time in a long while, the vast emptiness of space felt less like a prison and more like a canvas for new beginnings. As the USS Pioneer charted its course toward the next destination, Captain Victor embraced the truth he was. No longer a lone wanderer, lost among the stars. He was part of a new family, united by courage, compassion, and the promise of a brighter future. The USS Pioneer cruised steadily through the star-strewn darkness, its crew now accustomed to the steady rhythm of life in deep space. Captain Victor had found a cautious peace, a rare moment to breathe and learn from his human companions. But that peace was fragile. Threatened by the shadow that loomed ever closer, the Dominion, the ship's sensors suddenly blared with warnings. Lieutenant Torres' voice rang out, tense and sharp. "Captain, multiple contacts appearing on long range. Scanner's large fleet closing fast." Commander Finch immediately took his place on the bridge, eyes scanning the incoming data. "Dominion vessels. They're heading straight for us." Victor's pulse quickened. The Dominion, the merciless empire that had hunted him, destroyed his crew and left him for dead, was no stranger to him. But here, aboard the human vessel, his fear was mingled with something new: hope. The Dominion fleet was vast, their ships imposing and heavily armed. Their reputation preceded them, relentless, brutal, and nearly unstoppable. Yet the USS Pioneer remained unflinching, its crew ready to defend their rescued ally and their own ideals. "We don't have much time," Finch said, voice steady but urgent. "Prepare for battle. Shields to maximum, weapons charged." Victor stood beside Green, watching as the crew moved with practiced efficiency. The humans were ready to face overwhelming odds, not with despair, but with fierce determination. Why risk everything for one alien pilot? Victor asked quietly. Green met his gaze. Because no one deserves to be abandoned. Because we fight to protect the helpless, and because sometimes saving one means saving many. As the Dominion fleet closed in, tension gripped the ship. The cold expanse of space suddenly felt suffocating, filled with the threat of annihilation. The first salvo erupted, brilliant beams of energy lighting the darkness. The Pioneer shields absorbed the impact, shaking the ship but holding firm. Return fire. Finch commanded. The battle was fierce and unrelenting. The humans fought not only with advanced technology, but with ingenuity and courage. The Pioneer weaved through enemy fire, launching counterattacks with precise timing. Victor observed, astonished by their tactics. The humans didn't just rely on firepower, they used unpredictability, teamwork, and quick thinking to offset the Dominion's overwhelming numbers. At one critical moment, the Pioneer executed a daring maneuver, slipping through a narrow asteroid field. Enemy ships pursued, but the humans used the terrain to their advantage, disabling key vessels with well-placed strikes. Amidst the chaos, Victor felt a surge of pride. These humans fought not just for survival, but for a principle of belief that every life mattered. The battle waged on the Dominion, relentless in their assault. But the Pioneer and its crew stood firm. Their unity and spirit, a shield stronger than any technology. Finally, after hours of combat, the Dominion fleet began to withdraw, battered and defeated. Cheers erupted on the Pioneer's bridge. Exhausted, but victorious, the crew allowed themselves a moment of relief. Finch turned to Victor. You fought well alongside us. You are not alone anymore. Victor nodded, the weight of his past losses eased by this newfound alliance. For the first time, he saw a future not defined by fear and isolation, but by partnership and hope. As the USS Pioneer set course away from the battlefield, Victor looked out at the stars. No longer distant points of light, but symbols of endless possibility. The shadows of war still loomed, but together, humanity and its new ally would face whatever darkness came next. The USS Pioneer hummed with a tense energy as it limped away from the shattered remnants of the Dominion fleet. The crew's faces bore the marks of exhaustion, yet their eyes shone with the fire of survival and resolve. Captain Victor stood on the bridge, absorbing every detail of the aftermath. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he was part of something greater than himself. Commander Finch approached, his expression serious but hopeful. We've taken damage, but the ship is holding. We'll need to make repairs at the nearest outpost, but first we have to ensure the Dominion doesn't regroup and come after us again. Victor nodded. Their pursuit will not end here. They see me as a prize and a threat. Green moved to the tactical console, running scans of the nearby star systems. We have a small window to reach the outpost before reinforcements arrive. Our best chance is to use a narrow, uncharted route through the nebula vortex. The nebula vortex was infamous among starfarers, a swirling mass of charged particles and unpredictable gravitational waves. Many ships had disappeared within its depths, but it was also a perfect place to evade enemy sensors. Finch made the decision. Set course for the vortex. We'll take the risk. Victor glanced at the approaching stellar storm, its vibrant colors pulsing like a living thing against the blackness of space. It was a dangerous gamble, but survival demanded boldness. As the Pioneer entered the vortex, the ship trembled. Under the assault of the nebula's chaotic forces, alarms blared and crew members rushed to their stations. Steady hands battling against the storm's unpredictable fury. Shields holding at 60%. Torres reported, eyes focused. Navigating through these currents will require constant adjustments. Victor assisted, analyzing the shifting patterns with his pilot's instincts. The human's trust in his experience grew as he suggested subtle course corrections that kept the ship balanced. Suddenly, a ripple in the storm revealed a Dominion scout ship attempting to follow. The enemy's sensors were less capable of penetrating the nebula's interference. But the risk was real. Green activated the ship's stealth systems. We're going dark. They won't track us for long. Minutes felt like hours as the Pioneer navigated deeper into the swirling clouds. The crew's determination never wavered, their teamwork a seamless dance against the chaos. But then, an unexpected surge rocked the ship. A concentrated burst of energy from the scout's weapons pierced the shield, sending sparks cascading from the consoles. Hull breach in Sector 7, the engineering officer warned. Emergency teams dispatched. Victor grabbed a handheld console, coordinating damage control with the ship's officers. Keep the shields focused on the breach. We can't afford another hit. The crew responded with precision, sealing the breach and stabilizing the damage even as the nebulous fury intensified as the Pioneer pushed through the last barrier of charged particles. The storm's chaos gave way to calm, starry space beyond. The Dominion scout, battered and unable to follow further, retreated into the swirling mists. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the ship. Finch turned to Vector, a hint of admiration in his voice. You adapted quickly to our tactics. Q, your instincts saved us more than once. Victor felt a surge of pride. Your crew's courage and resilience are unmatched. Together, we are stronger. The near escape forged a deeper bond between the alien captain and his human allies. He understood now that survival was more than skill or technology, it was trust, cooperation, and the willingness to face the unknown as one. The USS Pioneer limped toward the outpost, ready to repair, regroup, and prepare for the battles still to come. Vector looked out at the endless stars once more. The fight for survival was far from over, but he was no longer drifting alone in the void. Together, they would face whatever came next. The outpost was a small cluster of gleaming structures clinging to the surface of a barren moon, orbiting a distant gas giant. The USS Pioneer docked with careful precision, its battered hull bearing the scars of recent battle. Inside, the hum of repair crews and medical teams filled the corridors. Yet beneath the busy exterior, an uneasy tension lingered. Captain Victor stood on the observation deck, gazing at the swirling storms of the gas giant below. He had come to respect the humans and they him. But he was not blind to the growing complexities of their alliance. Commander Finch joined him quietly. You've done well to come this far, but the Dominion will not relent. Their reach is long, and they'll target anyone who aids you. Victor nodded slowly. I am grateful for your help, yet I wonder, what does it cost you? How much are you willing to sacrifice for an ally who is too many an enemy? Finch sighed. War demands sacrifice. We've lost many families, friends, entire colonies. We fight not for glory, but for survival and for the hope that one day peace might follow. The weight of those words settled heavily between them. Back in the ship's medbay, Lieutenant Green was assisting Victor with his recovery. The injuries were healing, but the psychological scars ran deep. Sometimes I wonder if I'm ready to trust again, Victor confessed. My people taught me to rely on strength alone. But here, I'm learning there is power in something else. Connection. Green smiled gently. Trust is built, not given. It takes time, but it's worth fighting for. As repairs continued, a diplomatic envoy arrived from the local human coalition. Among them was Ambassador Lyra Kane, a sharp mind and steady voice in the storm of politics that surrounded the war effort. In the briefing room, the atmosphere was tense. Kane addressed the crew, her words carefully measured. The Dominion views Captain Victor as a threat to their dominance. Our coalition must decide how far to extend support without escalating conflict. Victor listened, understanding the delicate balance. His presence was a beacon of hope for some but a provocation for others. Later, Kane pulled Victor aside. Your people's struggle is real, but our coalition is fractured. Not all are ready to ally with the Zoltari. You'll need to prove your worth not just in battle, but in trust and diplomacy. The challenge was clear. Survival depended not only on strength, but on forging alliances amid uncertainty and fear. That night, Victor stood alone on the observation deck again, stars stretching endlessly before him. He thought of his lost crew, the silence of space, and the fragile bonds he now shared with humans. The cost of alliance was high. It demanded sacrifice, compromise, and courage to face the unknown together. But it was a cost worth paying. Across the ship, the crew prepared for the next phase of their journey, one that would test not only their skills in battle, but the resilience of their newfound unity. Victor felt the stirring of something powerful within himself. Commitment to stand beside these humans. To fight not just for survival, but for a future where different species could thrive together. The war was far from over. But the USS Pioneer was ready. Together, they would meet the coming storm. The repairs on the USS Pioneer were finally complete. The ship's hull gleamed under the bright lights of the outpost, no longer battered and vulnerable, but reinforced and ready. The crew was rested, their spirits renewed, despite the shadows of war that still loomed. Captain Victor stood once more on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the starfield beyond. The endless blackness was no longer a void to fear, but a frontier full of possibility. Around him, the humans worked in quiet coordination, a family forged in fire and trust. Commander Finch approached, his usual calm, steady. The Dominion's hold weakens, but they still control much of this region. We'll need to be cautious, but there are pockets of resistance forming, others willing to stand with us. Victor nodded. Then our fight is not just for survival, but for freedom. Not only for my people, but for all caught beneath their shadow. Lieutenant Green joined them, a spark of determination in her eyes. We've seen what we can do when we trust each other. Now, it's time to expand that. Trust, build alliances, gather support, and push back. The USS Pioneer slipped away from the outpost, its course set for the next system where whispers of rebellion awaited. Victor felt the familiar rush of the stars streaking past, the ship humming with life and hope. Days into the journey, the ship received a faint distress signal. It was faint, fragmented, but unmistakably a call for help. The message came from a small colony under siege. A beacon of desperate resistance against the Dominion. Finch consulted with his officers. We can't ignore this. It's what we've been preparing for. Victor felt a surge of resolve. Okay, Neil. Then we answer the silence once again. The Pioneer altered course, diving into danger without hesitation. When they arrived, the scene was dire, small fighters and ground forces pinned beneath the Dominion's superior numbers. But the humans and their alien ally fought with fierce unity. Coordinated strikes, daring rescues, and rapid tactics turned the tide. The colonists, inspired by the arrival of the Pioneer, rose with renewed courage in the heat of battle. Victor moved alongside Green and Torres, their actions synchronized. The alien pilot's knowledge of Dominion tactics combined with human adaptability created opportunities where none seemed possible. As the Dominion retreated, the colonists cheered. Their survival was more than a victory, it was a symbol that the seemingly invincible empire could be challenged. Back aboard the Pioneer, the crew gathered, their bond stronger than ever. Victor addressed them, voice steady and filled with hope. We began as strangers, drifting alone in the vast silence of space. But together, we have become a force, one that answers calls for help. that stands against darkness, that fights for a future where all may live free. Finch smiled. This is only the beginning. There are many more like them people waiting for hope. Victor looked out at the stars once more. The journey ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger, but now he no longer feared the silence, because in the vastness of space they had found something powerful: unity, courage, and the unyielding human spirit. They were no longer alone. They were a beacon. They were a new horizon.